Tuesday night.
Okay,
Jim,
welcome to the Monday, January 27th, 2025 regular council meeting here in Cumberland. I would like to start by recognizing that we are gathering and governing on the unceded traditional territory of what is now known as the Comox Nation, and we are always grateful for their grace and collaboration as we do this good work on their land. So could I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
so moved.
Second.
Thank you. And all in favor of that agenda? That's unanimous. Thank you. And there are minutes from regular council January 13th and APC January 9th.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of those minutes being received? Thank you. And correspondence from the Minister of Finance, consultation on speculation and vacancy tax. Are you going to speak to it a bit? Or
Well,
you
I
want me
can
to,
speak
or
a
what do
little
you
bit.
want- Yeah.
Like just to understand, like I think what basically what the province is asking for is if you can give feedback to them if you've been given feedback, and I'm looking back in November, we did do. A post on our website about it. We warned everyone, and everything. And I don't believe we've had anything come in about it officially into the office. And so really it's just at the council discretion now to, if you'd like to give some feedback.
Anybody have thoughts on that? Anybody heard from anybody?
I can't see us in the report at all. We're mentioned, but then there's no metrics for us, so.
Yeah, I think because we're new, we were just the last thing. I don't know.
Yeah, they won't get metrics until we're part of the program.
And it actually says that the letters are going out January, February. So it's possible that our residents have not got the letters yet.
Yeah.
So
That's
maybe,
the other thing I was going to mention.
Yeah, so
It's
maybe
hard
we
to-
can kind of give preliminary feedback, which I would start with. Please take the money from our vacancy tax and spend it in our community on affordable housing.
Great.
And then if we get any feedback from residents, maybe this will prompt something, or maybe the letters are arriving any minute, I don't know. And then
I
we
know
can
it's
add
really-
that to the
it's-
feedback if we need to.
That's right. Like we, minus anybody kind of catching this web post
Yeah.
or whatever, like people probably will not give you feedback until they get a letter. And then by then
Yeah.
the feedback period's already over.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. It's a bit of a backwards.
So maybe for this year, we just say, it's great. So far, so good. Please, I don't know, do they inform us afterwards on how much money they're collecting from us? Like I just have basic questions about how the whole thing
Yep.
works.
Well, that's really good feedback, actually. I think we could
Yeah.
we could ask them that, right? Like we'd
Yeah.
like to be
Like, why can't
informed
we
about the
just have
process
the
and the
money?
next steps.
Maybe
and-
they could just
yeah.
give that money directly to our community,
Yeah.
and we can figure out what we need to do with it.
Well, I think I'd actually maybe say not that because personally because the relatively small dollar value that's connected from our community. If we said it needed that communities' money gets spent in communities, then we wouldn't have access to, these
Whistler's
many
money.
millions of dollars coming out of Nanaimo, Victoria, Vancouver, or neighbouring communities. So I would hope we're disproportionately benefiting from this.
Right, but we aren't yet,
Yeah.
so.
No, I know. I'd like to.
So let's
I'd like
ask them
to see
to.
them to do it.
That's
yes.
a great suggestion, though.
But not to limit it to,
For sure.
the money
To
from a
just our
community
money.
goes to a community is not a
Right.
general principle I'd want to see.
I guess we'd probably really like to know what kind of reporting back will happen
Yeah.
to us. And okay, yep, that makes sense. That's good feedback.
And possibly the biggest benefit would just be that there aren't vacant
There aren't
houses.
vacant houses.
That would be, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the
don't.
intention, really.
Now, yeah, right, which is the intention of
Yeah.
the thing anyway, is to incentivize people not to leave them vacant, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you get that? Do you want a motion or something? Do you want us to try and put that into proper words? Does someone want to attempt that? Okay. So we want to, I'll just frame it and somebody else can move it. So we would like to, we haven't not heard any feedback from our residents. And if we do, we're happy to share that in the future. And we are curious about how the tax will be reported out to us. Do we get is it a number of units? Is it a money value? And then thirdly, how is that money being spent? And for not just the money that comes from Cumberland, but the money that's coming from the vacancy tax, is it being redistributed in a way that will help get us affordable housing? I think. Yes, if that's what we want to say, somebody else go ahead and move it.
Speculation and vacancy, I think, should.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. You want to move that?
I'll move that.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of that? And that's unanimous as well. So, reports. Multiple development applications for subdivision, Bevan Road. Coming up, Seamus and Courtney. It takes two to build an industrial park. It takes more than two. Very complicated report, Seamus. Thank you.
Thank you. Is this on? You're good. Yeah, no, it was a big one for sure. So, good evening, Mayor and Council. So the purpose of this report is to request council decision on matters relating to an industrial subdivision on Bevan Road, including a development permit at Area 1, environmental protection, development variance permit to multiple standards in the zoning, as well as subdivision control bylaws, a Local Government Act 10% frontage waiver, as well as a parkland dedication proposal. So what's triggered this is that we've received an application for a 15-lot industrial subdivision on Bevan Road. It doesn't have a civic address as of late, but it's located north of the dump and south of Beck Avenue. So the applicant received a preliminary layout review letter in September 2024, and the development applications presented tonight were generated as part of that process and are conditions to approve the subdivision. So we'll start with the development permit. So the property resides in Development Permit Area 1, Environmental Protection, and is mapped as located as being in the connectivity area. The applicant requires this development permit for land clearing to conduct the civil works for the subdivision. The applicant has engaged with a qualified environmental professional who has determined that there are no species at risk or sensitive areas near to the development. The QEP has also identified a few items to align with our development permit area criteria, specifically surrounding vegetation retention. So the property hosts a number of mature trees, and of 18, 4 of them have been identified to be retained, one of which is located in a proposed right-of-way area, 1 in a retention area, and 2 in the middle of 2 proposed lots. The applicant has also identified a number of pockets of younger vegetation, so regenerating trees, new growth, and they've identified multiple pockets throughout the proposed subdivision to retain this vegetation. A total of 285 younger trees are to be retained, and there's a range of how many trees are in each retention area. So the lowest number is 5 and the max is 56. So each retention area has a number of trees in that spectrum. What all this will ultimately result in is not only the development permit to conduct the subdivision land clearing works, but also a future covenant, which is a requirement of the final approval of subdivision. So this covenant, which is informed by the information and determination of the development permit, this covenant will be registered on all the proposed lots. So what the impact will be is that each individual lot will not require its own development permit 1 to proceed. So they just need an industrial permit 5, and they'd have to abide by the terms and conditions of the covenant. This covenant will set the expectations of where the mature trees and other to-be-retained vegetation will be located. It'll codify wildlife-friendly fencing standards as determined and recommended by the qualified environmental professional. And they've also identified harvest areas. So this is where they'll be taking some of the vegetation and using it elsewhere in the subdivision to help revegetate some of the lands that have been altered due to the subdivision works. And the covenant will help navigate and identify how the transplanting proposal will work. Overall, considering the interventions proposed, the replanting, the preservation of the mature trees, staff are supportive of the development permit. Moving over to the development variance permits. Overall, staff are supportive of the variances. The first one, of course, is for lot area. So the I2 zone requires a 7,500 meters squared minimum lot area for each lot created. However, the applicant has proposed a variety of smaller lots. A lot area, like the lot areas do vary, but the smallest lots are no smaller than 4,049 meters squared. And the hope of this is to provide a variety of lot sizes. So some businesses like tradespeople might not need a 7,500 meter squared lot. So it just adds a bit of variety in the subdivision, opening the door to smaller businesses. And this is also in support of a density averaging proposal. So basically by making some of the lots smaller, one of the lots is mandated to be bigger than the minimum lot area. And that, of course, would be lot 9, the largest one in the proposed subdivision plan. And a recommended condition of the development permit and a condition of the subdivision is that a no further subdivision covenant be registered on this larger lot in compensation for the smaller lots. We also have a lot width variance on lot 8. So it is a quasi-corner lot. It's buttressed by the proposed park dedication. And while the frontage on Road D matches the requirement in the lot, in the zone, the frontage on Lot E is actually shorter, and by zoning bylaw, we have to go with the shorter frontage. So that lot is small, that frontage is smaller, but it's a requirement of the zoning bylaw. There's no concerns with access. It's just the way the lot area did and layout did work out. So that's where that lot variance stems from. We also have a variance to sanitary servicing standards. So lots under 1 hectare in size must connect to the municipal sewer system. However, of course, the sewer network connection in Bevan is not available at this time, and the village's systems are not ready to accept waste generated from this development just yet. As such, to undertake the subdivision, we do require this variance. And in order to make sure that the subdivision and the lots do have functioning septic systems, each lot requires a registered on-site wastewater practitioner to design and maintain the system, and a covenant will be registered on each title of each property, advising the owners of the lots that they'll be required to upkeep the system. And of course, this is a temporary measure until the sewer system is available in that area. And to support future connections of the sewer system, each lot will be pre-serviced with municipal sewer. So it's a matter of getting the main connection to the rest of the community in that area. And the last variance is the utility covenant. So the lot area for the park and the utility lot are under the minimum of the zone. However, the zoning bylaw allows that these lots may be smaller than the minimum without a variance, so long as a covenant is registered on the title of these lots to basically not allow buildings with sewage generation. So if you put an office on a lot that had a bathroom, that would not be permitted. So by waiving this, the request to waive this requirement, it just allows the village a bit of flexibility should the need arise in the future, like the utility lot needs a control office, or if we choose to put bathrooms in the park, those could be just administered a little bit easier. However, I note there are no plans to do so at this time. So that's all we have for the variances. So moving on to the LGA frontage requirements, and this requirement stems from the Local Government Act. So what the Act requires is that lots have a perimeter of 10% of the frontage. So what that rule does is basically ensures that there's adequate access into each lot. So if the lot is a bit irregularly sized or shaped, then you'll see this requirement be triggered. The requirement does have some ability to be delegated to the approving officer for approval. However, in this case, those criteria did not apply, so we have to get council direction and approval to approve this request. The lots that are affected by this matter are Lot 8 and the proposed utility lot. However, there are no concerns with access into the lots, and it's ultimately driven just by the design of the lot as well as the size of each lot. So it's just the way the zoning translated to meeting this LGA requirement. So overall, staff have no concerns with that request. And finally, we have a parkland dedication proposal for the subdivision as well. So Local Government Act regulations require that a municipality receive up to 5% of either the land proposed in the subdivision as park dedication or an equivalent payment as cash in lieu. In this case, the applicant has proposed an 1,100 meter squared park, which is about 12% of this maximum 5% requirement, and has proposed the balance of this to be a cash payment to the village to use for other park-related projects. Now, the way the Local Government Act is written is that we can only accept either 5% in land or 5% in value, and we don't have the opportunity to accept a hybrid proposal without the authorization for council, hence why we need the authorization to proceed as such. Overall, staff are supportive of this proposal, as the size of the proposed park is appropriate for the neighborhood, as it is an industrial area, and the cash payment will be able to benefit other park projects throughout the village. So we'll have a good park for the subdivision and the users out in Bevan, but we'll also be able to use those funds to help fund other park projects throughout our community. And finally, the development variance permit, of course, has a public input period, like every other variance permit. And as of the 2 p.m. deadline today, only one inquiry from the public was received, and it was just an inquiry of just a question, essentially. So, and I thank you, and I open the floor to questions.
Thanks, Seamus. Questions? Anybody?
It's
ahead,
a
Councillor.
little light on details about the wastewater management there. I mean, is there enough, particularly on some of the smaller parcels, to accommodate septic, like a reasonable septic field? I know there's ways of doing it with vertical. Do you have any concerns with having that much density of septic systems in that particular area, given the porous nature of the soils and gravel?
Yes, so each lot will have the wastewater practitioner design a septic system to the needs of each lot. So those are some of the factors they would be considering as part of their review. So it's hard to say like the needs and precise details of how those systems will be designed, but they will have that engineer and they will have that septic professional reviewing that before proceeding. So right now, ultimately, the septic systems would be driving like the size of the building and how much use can actually occur on each lot.
And the type of use or type of industry in there? Because, I mean, septic systems can handle some things, but not others. So I know, I think it's in the headwaters of the Morrison Creek there. If you start getting extremely heavy industrial use and it's not appropriate, is there, I'd like to know that there'd be sufficient oversight for something that's maybe pushing a lot of oils or something into that region.
Yeah. And yeah, and those are some of the things that they would be looking for in the septic design. So you're right, there's things like oil grit separators that help mitigate some of those concerns. So
Okay.
yeah, exactly. Like those will be, you're right, there's different industrial uses, and we would be considering those at the time of those
Okay.
development and building permits as they come in.
All right, that was my main question with it.
Me too. Anybody else?
No, I had a question about the parkland dedication, but you explained it really well. Thanks.
Go ahead.
I've couple of questions about the park. The cash in lieu can be used for purchase of other parkland, or can it be used for improvements to other parks? I'm just wondering how much discretion we've got with how we use those funds later on.
And the money would be going towards the parkland dedication fund. So that's when we go out and actually purchase parkland for the use of the village.
Okay, so we can't like buy playground equipment with it or anything like that?
Exactly. Yeah, it would be physically purchasing land.
Okay, yep, no, just curious on that. And just from the map, which map am I looking at? Page 40 of 120. Is the utility portion, is that road dedication? Is that almost 1 acre part?
At the just at the stub end of Road D.
Yeah,
That's correct. Yes. So that was initially to be dedicated as road for the purposes of a utility lot. However, we determined that just declaring it a lot would be the simpler fix.
okay, and then what is the purpose of that lot?
So as of to date, it is going to be used for water reservoirs. So for potable water.
Okay. So the water line's gonna come out there and then we're gonna have a small water tank there to
Exactly.
maintain head pressure for these lots kind of thing?
Exactly.
I see.
Yep.
And then later on, that would be the location for a lift station for the sewer line if that was necessary or something like that?
Exactly. Yeah. It's dedicated for those exact things like municipal utilities. So you got it. The sewer lift stations, the
Okay.
the reservoirs, items like that.
Okay. Okay, yeah. I like the work you've done with the covenants and trying to retain as much of the natural cover out there as you can, which is unusual for an industrial park, but I do appreciate it. Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yes, I was going to say that, and the covenant gives the legal protection to those identified tree retention areas. That's correct,
Exactly,
yes,
yes.
and the other piece.
Exactly. So once that covenant is on each title, the developers, so their landscape architect and an architect, they'll have those constraints to work around. And of course, like in the event, like let's say one of the mature trees in the middle of the lot do have to be removed, there would be a requirement for a tree replanting inside that covenant. So yeah, it does help navigate some of those concerns.
Right.
I just want to add something to that because this covenant is a bit of a new thing for us. So actually, it's the development permit itself that regulates the areas to be retained. So the development permit will be issued, as it's drafted right now. You can only clear the areas that are not set aside to be preserved. And for the works to create the subdivision, to install the utilities, really all that's needed is that development permit that they're considering today. Now we're looking ahead to when each individual lot is developed. And the development permit area already has this provision that says one of the exemptions, you don't need a development permit if there's a covenant registered on title about how to develop on this lot to follow all the rest of these guidelines, and the proposal is consistent with that covenant. So that's what we're would put in place this time, and that's thinking really ahead to development of each individual lot. And then it does address those 2 trees that are to be retained during the lot creation, but the new owners of those new lots might, want to look at removing.
That's right. Yep.
And my main question I had, the cash in lieu for the parkland, it notes that's related to the current valuation of the land, but by allowing the land to be purchased and not be park, then it gains in value as it. You see what I mean? But the
Right.
land value today is a certain amount, but by giving it this permission, that piece of land then has a
Right.
different value. And I was wondering if there's a mechanism to share in that value with the developer rather than only gaining whatever the value is right now of that land.
It's almost like. That's right. Yeah, and I think it's by the application date, right? Yeah. So it is based by when the subdivision application came in. So we'd be basing the value off of what the valuation was at that time. So if there was a gain in value between then and now, we'd have to go by with what the value of the land was at the time of application.
But it's more that if you imagine you basically allow all parkland to be bought out as cash in lieu, the village gains the dollar value of the land before improvement, and then the developer gains a lot more from being able to then develop that land and profit and make the profit upon that.
Right.
If you sold 5 housing lots on a housing development and said instead of park you can have houses, as soon as this permission is given, that value goes up.
Right, I see.
right?
Right, yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I sort of feel that, I don't know
Not
if there's
sure
a
that's
mechanism to
yeah.
understand that.
Yeah,
Doesn't incentivize park creation, that's for sure.
right. Yeah, and go ahead. Oh, yeah, no, it's just ultimately what the local government act legislation comes down to. So it's the tools that we're handed to work with from the province.
Right, that's the answer I was looking for.
Yeah, okay.
Much as we would like to, we don't even have the freedom to negotiate on that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, right, understood.
Got it.
Okay.
Any other questions before I go? So I just I want to note, because Cumberlanders are very fond of our trees, even out in our industrial park, and that this is, a subdivision on basically the green space that's there, because the whole place has been clear cut. But I will note that 47 trees will be planted, so it's not like we're losing a bunch of trees and it's just going to be a barren wasteland. It will be recouped in as much as possible. I really like the idea of harvesting the native species and transplanting them. And I just know how hard that is because I've done it for a lot of times, and mostly what I transplant dies. So I hope that they have a better landscaping. I hope they're better at that. And do we have backup for, so say a bunch of things get transplanted and that's their landscaping and it's all good, but then it all dies. Is there a backup plan for that, or is that just our regular landscaping deposit and then whatever, it goes away in a year or 2 years or whatever that time period is?
Yeah, so there, like the street trees, the 47 trees that you mentioned, that would be captured as part of our standard maintenance securities as part of subdivision.
Yeah.
The transplanting, when they're actually the harvesting and transplanting, since it's a new proposal, we'd have to look at that and do that as part of the covenant.
Okay. Okay. I think it's awesome. I appreciate how creatively you have made this second phase work. I think the smaller lots, while they're a little bit scary, the septic thing was definitely concerning to me. But I think we've found ways to deal with all the challenges that are out there and still allow this to go forward. So thank you so much for your hard work on this particular piece of work. If there's no more questions, there's a recommendation, Council.
Well, if I can get to it, I'll move it.
It's long.
But I know, I'm
Speaking up.
almost there. Okay, so I will recommend that Council approve a development permit 2024-04 DP for purpose of a 15-lot subdivision of a lot legally described as Lot A, Section 34, Township 10, Comox District Plan, EPP 130046. And that Council approve a development variance permit to 2024-09 DV as specified for the purpose of a 15-lot subdivision of a lot legally described as Lot A, Section 34, Township 10, Comox District Plan, EPP 130046. And that Council exempt proposed Lots 8 and Lot A, utility of the proposed subdivision of Lot A, Section 34, Township 10, Comox District Plan, EP 130046, from the 10% minimum frontage requirement pursuant to Local Government Act Section 512, to allow a frontage of 4.3% and 9.5% respectively. And that Council approve the park dedication proposal and accept the proposed 0.10 hectare 1100 metre squared park with cash contribution to, in combination, meet the 5% parkland dedication requirement.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor of all that? Yes. And that's carried unanimously as well. Okay.
Council awards
Number
that.
2, dam.
Thanks, Seamus.
Thank you so much, Seamus.
Sold to the back.
Okay.
My goodness, this
right.
just doesn't end.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I'm Jason Wallace. I'm the new manager of municipal projects with the Village of Cumberland. So my main focus right now is the number 2 dam replacement project that we have going on. I think you guys mostly have the background on it, but it was deemed a significant risk. We then went out and got funding both for the dam replacement as well as support for the spillway creek that has quite a bit of erosion going on in it. So Council came back, asked that we look at updating the estimates for this. So we have gone back to Tetra Tech, our consulting team, to get the estimates for this project updated to today value. So that is going to be coming hopefully in the next month or so. But then that came with the report that we've asked for. So we are considering the idea staff is bringing forward of moving to a design bid build methodology with this instead of the design build. It seems like there's a lot of question from council as well as staff. We kind of want to have some input in this, and the design build system really moves a lot of that kind of decision making into a design build team. Whereas this way we could go out, get a firm to help us with doing those detailed designs, bring that forward. Before we bring on anybody doing the construction work, it offers an opportunity for input. And at that point, we'd be able to answer some of those other questions like the amount of water that we're going to be able to hold, or how much water we'll have for fish-bearing streams, and those kind of items. So that's kind of what came forward in the much shorter than Seamus's report that we brought forward. So we've begun doing some consultation with stakeholders on this. We've talked to Mosaic, CVRD. We're currently in the process of connecting with KFN as well with a memo on risks and rewards. And then the next step, once we get that evaluation back, if it is looking comfortable still, would be to do an RFP for the design engineering team for this project. So we just wanted to kind of bring that forward, make sure you guys understand the rationale for adjusting the procurement methodology and answer any questions you might have.
Thank you so much. Yes, we've all been looking forward to this. So who wants to go first? Okay, go for it, Councillor Therrien.
So I guess my biggest concern with this whole project has been the cost certainty of the project. So with this new design bid build method, once we send this out for the actual building bid, we're going to have a much clearer picture on costs
And you'd be a lot closer to it. So in the design build framework, a team comes on and they would have their price that they're bringing forward. They'd be then doing the design work and then going out to do the construction, but you'd be kind of getting that information from them right at the beginning. This way, we'll have the design team on. We can do the detailed design work for the project, and then we'd be going out to tender for the actual construction work. Even looked at the opportunity of maybe breaking these up into having the construction work for that creek remediation, and then also then being able to have that construction work for the actual dam replacement happening after. So it's going to create a little bit more control over when you're getting that information. And then hopefully you're going to have more detailed design work, gives a more accurate view of what you're actually going to be creating, and allows them to quote more directly to something that they're going to be building over a team coming in with that kind of lack of that formal detail to try and price out the construction.
And will the design aspect of it come in with a cost estimate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So you'd have a
so
cost
that-
estimate that you would come off of, but then you would be then going out to market, and of course that comes with what it comes with.
Comes
at
with
the
what it
time.
comes with, yeah.
Yeah.
But then, what's my question here? With that cost, if that cost estimate is significantly higher than what we've currently got as our funding, then what are our options at that point? I'm assuming we can use part of that funding for the design portion.
Yeah.
And then if there's a lack of funding remaining for the actual building, what are our options at that point?
I don't know the answer to that right now.
Okay.
It would, or Michelle, do you want
I do think your report does talk about you guys, you are trying to partner with a few, like some stuff.
Some stakeholders, yeah.
Yeah.
We're looking at some ideas around cost saving, provision of materials, construction of roads and stuff like that with some of the stakeholders,
I see.
being the landowners. The other thing I should mention is, we are working to get an updated estimate for the project here within a month. We'll have a pretty good idea if we're going to have to start looking for other funding sources or how we're going to be able to manage the project within the budget. But yeah, we'll know that fairly quickly here.
Yeah.
Good, thank you.
Anybody else?
My questions have been answered.
Yep, we just need that estimate because we have a meeting coming with our MP who's going to find us some more money because we're going to need more money. So, yeah, I think that's the way to go. It gives us, as I understand, it will give us more control over each kind of section of the work and the ability to carve out and move them around in timing and stuff as needed.
Yeah, it'll create a more stepped approach to the project over trying to kind of get all this out there all at once, and then again, you get what you get at the end. This sort of gives us an opportunity to kind of stagger the approach and ensure that we have input throughout the entire process.
Okay, great. Councillor Chair.
And I guess one other question is, in the design portion of it, are we still looking at hydropower creation
So
as a possible component of, or being able to add it on later, or?
Yeah, I think we're looking at future hydro potential by including a intake and short section of penstock in the design of the dam.
Okay, perfect, great, that's useful.
Yeah.
Just remind me, is there a hard deadline with this coming up, or is it something that's considering the potential
Well, I think-
outcomes on this, with loss of life being the main one? Is there?
It's been like this since '72, so I mean, it's not like we've been rushing to fix it, but there is pressure from the ministry to act on it.
Yeah, but they haven't given like thou shalt do this by X date.
No, but the former dam safety officer, John Baldwin, a couple times told me, he could write me an order.
Yeah.
He said,
Okay.
if your council doesn't want to move forward with this, you can write me an order. I said, well, let's get some other projects out of the way, and then we can start focusing on this, right? And then get the funding in place. So, yeah.
Yeah, can I just also mention, like, the funding has a deadline.
It does a
to
deadline.
it.
Yeah,
So that's
yeah, can I
December
imagine?
31st, 2027,
Okay.
for the end of the project, and then there's reporting after that.
Yeah.
That's allowed.
Yeah. But those deadlines are more flexible, because it's just the funding, right? I mean, we'll see. We have an election coming. We don't know.
That is an extended deadline already. We
Okay.
did request an extension.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. If there's no more questions, there's a recommendation there.
The council approve a design bid build procurement methodology for the number 2 dam replacement project, including issuing an RFP for design services for this project.
Second.
All in favor? With enthusiasm?
Yes.
Yay. Yay. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Take care.
Okay, so community service partnership agreement with Elevate the Arts. Ryan, come on up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Hello.
So yeah, recreation staff over the last few years have been working with Elevate the Arts Society on the provision of a variety of cultural events in the Valley. You'll all know the Halloween event, the Easter event, the summer concert series, and then in 2023 we added a small Christmas tree lighting event. During the 2023 budget process, Council directed staff to draft community service partnership agreements with a number of organizations for 2024 to 2027. One of those organizations was Elevate. But at the time, we already had a contract in place with them for the Easter 2024 event. And so just so that we could work with full calendar years and we don't have part of the agreement covering only part of a year, we put off the community service partnership agreement until 2025. So the one that we're presenting tonight, it is 2025 to 2027, so that it is on the same cycle as all the other ones, and it's all nice and packaged up. So this agreement covers the annual provision of those same 4 events. It provides $14,000 each year to Elevate for the delivery of those partnered events. That's, of course, within the overall community partnership agreement budget, and it's in alignment with past council direction. So staff have really enjoyed working with Elevate the past few years. We feel like the events have been very well received within the community. But yeah, that's really the end of my spiel. I'll turn it over to you for comments or questions.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks for bringing this forward. Any questions, anybody?
What uses up the Halloween budget? Is that like the road closure?
The DJ?
They do hire a DJ. A lot of it is, I think, just like, their own capacity putting on as event organizers. But yeah, there's some treats I think that they usually buy. There's a DJ. There's sometimes popcorn. Yeah.
Anybody else?
I just think it's been great so far. I
Yeah.
support it.
It's consistently one, those events, the summertime concert series. Everybody, even visitors, especially to the town, comment on what a vibrant little place we have here. So there's economic spin-offs to it. I think that's just phenomenal with the partnership that we have. So thank you.
They like the Stoke, I hear.
They love the Stoke.
I think there's, one of the things we do very well here is partner with our nonprofit organizations to increase our capacity. And when you have a community full of event producers, we totally don't need to do that. So, yeah, and I think they're very aligned with what we do. I only have one question about the contract or the MOU, which is around the Christmas tree lighting. I think it's actually called, maybe it's not called a Christmas tree lighting event, but there is some concern over the actual Christmas tree in the park. And so do we need to say something in there that we will, like, provide a tree, provide lights? Like, there's nothing in there that says we'll actually decorate the square and make sure that there's something to light up.
That's true.
That's the only red flag I have. If we have to do something with that tree.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just a Christmas event.
It's just a Christmas event. There might not be a tree one year. Or
Yep.
I don't know. I don't even want to say that.
I mean, that would be a fairly easy adjustment to the
Yeah.
agreement.
I think we still want to do the celebration. It just might not be, it just might look different. Or we need to commit to growing a really big tree really fast. I don't know. That's all I got. So,
And then I expect we're going to see Elevate coming here as a delegation in the near future. Is that
That's
right?
right.
As part of the agreement.
I could give you the date in a moment. I think in February are they coming?
No, Elevate presented on 2024 events in November, so they would next be scheduled. They would present on their 2025 year in review in early 2026.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, we only just heard from them.
Okay.
yeah.
So looking back at the first year of the agreement.
Great.
Okay. Okay.
Right. I'd like to move that council enter into a 2025-2027 community service partnership agreement between the Village of Cumberland and Elevate the Arts Society and authorize the Chief Administrative Officer and the Mayor to execute the agreement.
Second.
All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
And now we're on to Disaster Resilience Innovation Fund grant application. Don't go, Kevin.
I was trying to be like Courtney. Okay, so back in the fall, the province issued a call for expressions of interest for projects in support of a new program they're calling the Disaster Resilience and Innovation Fund. So we put in an expression of interest and were invited in December to submit a full application that's due later this week. And what we're proposing to do is fund the ongoing work that we've started for the Perseverance Watershed Initiative. So this is largely continuing the hydrometric monitoring program with the addition of some qualified environmental professionals looking at soils and actually taking the data we're collecting on the hydrology and helping inform how exactly that system works from a natural perspective and where areas of interest would be for future work for watershed protection. So we're proposing a project of a total value of $100,000, of which 25% would be funded by the village, which would require the allocation of some host amenity reserve as proposed in the report, in addition to some money that we're already carrying forward from previous years. And then that $75,000 would essentially cover the projects within as applied for. So, and then just lastly on the topic of PWI, what we figure is once we have additional data coming hopefully mid to late this year, then we could come back and give council a little bit more of a holistic update on that whole project and where we're at.
Awesome. Thank you. Questions, council? Go ahead.
I guess I've just got one. It seems like every time we get grant funding, it ends up being a drain on staff time, and is this another one of these situations, or is this something that you're just gonna hand off to the consultants and they're gonna run with it, and your time is not going to be?
This one is
Or
actually,
impacted.
it's a good question. This one is actually our strategy for funding PWI was largely reliant on grant funds. What we've asked for in previous budgets was really just to some seed funding for continuing to do this type of work.
Yep.
So I feel like we have a pretty good structure in place between staff, a consulting team to act as kind of project coordinators and leadership through Latitude and Tim Ennis's group. And then, there'll still need to be some work with finance, with procurement and grant administration and whatnot, but I think it is in fitting with, the resources we have in place for the project.
Okay, great, thank you.
Great. Any other questions?
Yeah, it says, should the village be successful, the 75 grand goes towards. If the grant is not successful, does this 13.5 still get spent on a smaller piece, or is it not required?
We actually have a second application in for $50,000. It didn't require a council resolution for another project, so we would probably recalibrate that to get some of this work done. We would just shuffle things around to like really try and get the highest priority. So we may shorten, say, the timelines in which we're collecting data or something like that. But having that additional funds would help, regardless of the outcomes of this. Does that make sense?
Well, yes. So effectively, the 13.5 you're asking for us for tonight is not contingent. It's going to be used, and if it can be amplified by the grant, all the better. Is that?
I think that's fair to say for PWI. And there may be future funding requests in like next year's budget, for example, if we're not successful in getting these types of. But staff would analyze that and come back with more information during a budget cycle. Yeah.
Okay, great. And that 50,000 is watershed security fund or something?
That's right.
Okay.
That is the
awesome.
Watershed Security Fund. Yeah.
Fantastic.
This grant, as a provincial grant, was not able to fund anything with like wildfire resilience related. So it's focused on water scarcity, like drought and flood risk.
Okay.
The watershed security was a little bit more open-ended, so we were able to look at some different approaches to evaluating risk on the landscape as it relates to fire and our
great.
existing infrastructure and impacts that landscape level fire could have on water supply.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
I also wouldn't mind adding is like this is part of Kevin's work plan, like, and we're trying to get funding for it now. Like he's actually got it in his work plan now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Whittled it down to his work plan finally. For us.
Good.
Okay. There's a recommendation there.
Well, then, you
I think you already started.
okay. That council directs staff to submit a full proposal for a funding application for the Perseverance Watershed Initiative through the Disaster Resilience and Innovation Funding, or DRIF program, and that council support the project and commits to cost overruns. And that council approve the expenditure of up to $13,500 to be funded through Host Amenity Funds Reserve for Perseverance Watershed Initiative, and that council directs staff to bring forward an amendment to the adopted 2025 to 2029 financial plan bylaw to reflect this expenditure.
Second.
And all in favor of that?
Yeah.
That's unanimous as well.
Like that.
Okay.
Can I just
Thank
add
you,
one more
Kevin.
thing? Just seeing the
Yes.
resolution. This is directly, the resolution is taken directly from the grant application. This is what they require. Seeing the commits to cost overruns, I imagine for a council could be a little bit scary. There's no capital infrastructure proposed as part of this. We'll be able to mold the studies to this. I wouldn't say that's a concern. I meant to say that in my presentation, but
Thank
in
you.
light of the previous presentation, I thought that was worth
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
That's what I thought.
Now we have bylaw, our financial plan, our first financial plan amendment for 2025. Is Andre? Do you want to speak to it, or we're just doing it?
Yeah.
Nope. Come on it.
Pass it.
You don't have to.
Just pass it.
I think we're good.
The second round, it's a little bit after the fact, but it's just the second round of amendments to the 2024-2028 financial plan, and it includes it's for the last 5 months of 2024, and it includes the council resolutions that were made since then, and that recommended to amend the bylaw and some initiatives. So council resolutions are in Appendix 3, I believe. Attachment 3. And so other amendments are let me see. The other amendments are the contingency reserve requests, but they're all combined into so-called recommended by staff amendments. So the contingency reserve requests are in there. There's 2 amendments recommended by staff. One of them should have been gotten into round 1, but was missed. That was the from the Linear Asset Renewal Reserve. It was for the Cultural Center Alley paving work. And the other one was for Penrith Avenue 1st to 3rd. And from the Community Works Funds, 20K, and the Linear Asset Renewal Reserve for 15K. And then we also received some grants within that 5-month period. You can see them listed there in attachment 4, in the last section. And those lead to budget amendments too. So that's basically in a nutshell the gist of the report.
Thank you. I just have one question. The Canada Building Fund, that's not something we applied for, that just came to us, or did we apply for it? Could somebody explain to me? I don't remember that.
I can jump in. That's Community Works Funds.
Oh.
So what happened was they only
Let's
gave
just change
us.
the name of the grant.
I know,
Agreed.
just change it, and yeah. So we have the 10-year agreement.
Yeah.
The first year they had confirmed that, I guess they had confirmed it was 132, so that's what went in the budget, but it was really 264 or something like that.
okay.
So that we
Yeah.
just.
A little bit of
It's
a
the same grant we
misunderstanding.
always get. They just keep changing the name. That's great. Okay, thanks.
next 10 years.
Not for the next 10 years. Good. I'll just get used to this one and they'll change it again. Okay, so there's a recommendation there, council.
Okay.
Thanks, Andre. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, that's okay. That's probably good for a change. So.
You guessing?
I'll move that council give first, second, and third reading to the 2024 to 2028 financial plan amendment bylaw number 1224, 2025.
Second.
All in favor? That is carried unanimously. And notices, motions, and announcements, please check the website before you come down to these meetings, just in case. The wastewater advisory committee meeting is on Thursday, January 30th at 1 p.m. in council chambers. Questions? Our audience left, didn't they? Okay, online questions?
There was one question that came in earlier today, if I can find it, regarding the Bevan Road subdivision. What will be the additional cost to plow the roads and maintain the roads?
I mean, I
10.
let me get my crystal ball. No, I'm
Yeah.
like, so what I can say is that with every subdivision, assets are given to us. The developer has to do on-site works. They give us the assets. We are then responsible for maintaining them. So that's likely what the question is. We already do maintain that road. We already snowplow out to that, and now we'll have to go back in. It's not possible to know exactly how much, but that's what it'll.
If it's this year, 0.
Yeah.
Because it didn't snow.
I would say that this connects to my question of earlier of the higher than I'd expected tax revenue that you noted came from the industrial lands. And
That's
so
right.
with this, there will be significant extra tax revenue that more than covers any slight increase in ploughing or
Yeah.
other maintenance.
And you will be getting, that's a good point, because you will be getting a fiscal impact analysis on industrial and commercial undeveloped lands that are coming to you pretty quick. And that's interesting. So you'll get to see how those pay or
Yeah.
will need to changes will need.
Part of our strategic intent is to increase the amount of industrial land use to support the residential tax base.
So, yes, and by support the residential tax base, we mean to decrease our reliance on residential tax as our only tax. We have developed the industrial lands to help offset that.
It's coming around.
I just have a point of order, just from the previous one, the wastewater advisory committee, it shows that it's starting at 12 on our
What did I say?
invites. 1 o'clock, and it shows it as 1 o'clock here, but in my council calendar, it shows 12.
See, so always check the
And then-
website
and
before
then-
you.
But I think what's going on there is a tour starting at 12 that is not open to the public
I see.
Okay.
of the actual site. Will start at 12, and I believe the actual meeting is going to start in here at 1:30. But I'll double check my agenda.
Good catch. Yes, Rob's saying yes. Thumbs up.
1:30 is the actual meeting in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so 1:30 for
Because
wastewater
I'll
if you
be
want to
here.
come down.
Okay.
And I have to get from my CVRD meeting to here by 1:30. Yes.
That's a busy day in council chambers, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
No.
No other questions then? There's a closed portion recommendation there. If someone could move us to close, please.
I'll move the council close the meeting to the public pursuant to Section 90 of the Community Charter to consider labor relations or other employee relations, law enforcement, if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the conduct of investigation under enforcement or enactment, or discussions with municipal officers and employees respecting municipal objectives, measures and progress reports for the purposes of preparing an annual report under Section 98.
Thank you. Seconder?
Second.
Thank you. And all in favor of going to closed?